So, if you don't know, this is the Web Vulnerabilities and OWASP Top 10 workshop. If you don't know what OWASP is, don't worry, we'll be going over that. In fact, that's literally our next slide. So, OWASP is the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. It is the way that we track the highest web vulnerabilities. We look at OWASP, and it was launched in 2001, and it helps to improve the security of software. Not only is there an OWASP top 10, there's also other types of top 10s from OWASP. So specifically, there's one for AI. If you were in the room, you heard Dr. Allen say that. And also, there's one for low-code, no-code security and mobile. I'll put some up. Maybe if I put on the right screen. Boom. Yeah. So all of them come with a list. As you can see, there's 10. This one is for low code, no code. The reason I put this on here is because my manager this summer helped make this list, which was really cool. She told me a lot about how that was done. But if you go to OWASP.org here, let me make this larger and not do that. If you go here, you hit projects and you hit OWASP top 10, you'll see the top 10 vulnerabilities in web applications for this year. They typically don't change per year. Sometimes they do. Like there's a massive overhaul from 2017 to 2021. But we'll go into each vulnerability and kind of how you can remedy this and also how you can exploit this. We'll be doing a little bit of practice with that as well, only in actual areas that are allowed. But yeah. So OWASP website also has a bunch of other articles and links, and you can find a bunch of resources through their site. I won't be showing that just because it's a little bit time consuming to go through all of that. But just know that there's a lot of resources within OWASP itself. It's really great for learning about vulnerabilities in particular. So what exactly is a web vulnerability? This is anything that can cause unauthorized access to resources on your web page. It could be malicious code, insecure file paths, insecure input, or just general misconfigurations. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, developers can be dumb and leave comments that just have passwords in them. I've seen that personally in the workforce. It's really stupid. Sometimes someone will just have a password called password, and it's so easy to guess, or leaves default credentials on their website or whatever piece of code they're making. I've seen that enough times to not count on my fingers. So that's why OWASP was created. So what exactly are the top 10 vulnerabilities? It's pretty important for developers to know. And not even developers, but also people in cybersecurity should know this as well, because they do tend to come up a lot. So the first vulnerability is broken access control. And it's when a user can act outside the permission limits. So a request from an unauthorized user is able to be handled by the authorized endpoint. So let's say I log in as myself, but I'm also able to access, I don't know, a professor's account. That's broken access control. I shouldn't be able to access a professor's account to change my own grade. That is something called broken access control. And a way you would prevent this is to ensure unauthorized access cannot be made by checking endpoints and checking if a user can have access to these unauthorized endpoints and resources, and make sure that there's a middleware between these endpoints. The main way that this is done is that in what's it called? CAS? The login for your NetID checks specifically for a NetID and password and uses that credentials. You can't if you log in with someone else's credentials, of course you can log into their account. But there's also the factor of multi-factor authentication with Duo Security, with their 3-pin thing that I don't want to say I hate it. It's actually pretty good, because I can't memorize 3 numbers. It is less convenient, but it's for the better of security, I will say. There's a way that you can copy it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like if you're on your computer, you also get cookies. So once you're logged in, you don't have to log in again.
Exactly.
So if you're on a new device, you'll have to.
Yep. I love cookies. The second thing is cryptographic failures, and this is literally anything that relates to encryption. So some examples are transmitting information in clear text. So you don't want your password sent in clear text to a server. It'd be way too easy to intercept. Authorization keys, which are way too simple and are not properly handled, and using non-cryptographic random function generation. So let's say I crack, let's say a guest user's password with an encryption. I don't want to be able to use the same cryptographic function generation for my password too, so it should be random. So the way you would prevent this is to use HTTPS. Does anyone know what that stands for? Yeah. Yeah. So the main way that this is exploited is that it uses HTTP, which is, as you said, not secure, whereas HTTPS is secure. Ideally, you'd want to use it for everything. If you're using a bank that doesn't use this, I'd consider switching banks. Also use a highly trusted hashing and encryption algorithms. I'm not going to go way too deep into this because I get way too technical and way too mathy, which if you want to know more about, just come next week to the cryptography general meeting. And you don't want to make your own encryption algorithm in production. You should probably just use already existing ones. There's pretty good ones out there. Or you'd also want to implement rotation for authorization keys. Specifically, this is really done for highly sensitized data. If you haven't also realized, I mean, if you're a freshman, you probably haven't gone through this, but for Rutgers, I think we're asked to change it, I think 6 months or 9 months, it's something like that. But you're asked to change your password, so it's a way of keeping good password hygiene. You'd also not want to use the same password for anything. I'll go into that, I think, later. But the third vulnerability is injections, which is anything that's inputted from a request can change how a request is handled. So sometimes you could treat user input like code. And a really great example of this is SQL injections. Out of curiosity, how many of you guys have heard of SQL injections? Just raise your hand. Okay, yeah. Yep. A prime example is that it can just return an entire database if formatted correctly, and it can even modify or delete a database in some cases. Oh, I don't have this on here right now. I don't have it running, but an example of this, I'm just gonna open up a notepad. Surely I'm not running anything. An example of this, I don't have the specific website I wanted to run, mostly because I broke it like last night. But an example of this would be this, which is unioning a table, selecting all from the table name, which was actually the admin. I will post the website if you want to play around. Last year for RU CyberCon, me and someone else made a OWASP Top 10 workshop where you could completely break the website and put anything that you wanted on it. Unfortunately, it's like no longer hosted on the internet. We just have it as a local project. But if you run this, you'd get an entire database back with a lot of passwords. Also, he was forced to use SQL, that's SEAL. Very important. So the main way that you would prevent this is to parse through raw input, and you don't want to trust input coming from a user. The number one way that things break is because users break them, in my opinion. And you'd want to avoid putting user input than anything that isn't parsed as code. So you'd want to use prepared statements for SQL and use SQL query libraries instead. Another way that you could do that is to make sure to sanitize your input. This is common in a lot of different languages that you'll specifically have vulnerability scanners check for inputs that are sanitized, and if they're not sanitized, it won't let you push your code to production. Next up is insecure design. This is kind of very common, I feel. It's just software design that includes vulnerabilities that cannot be resolved through the implementation of a patch. So an example of this would be embedded devices, and these should be resolved in the planning stage of a developer's development cycle. But hikey, they just don't do it. I don't know why. But a lack of looking at the business risk perspective, which leads to risky ideas, leads to this problem. It also fails out to find what level of security is required. So what you would do is to parse through and vet libraries and use trusted repos. Please don't install like random packages onto your code. Don't clone random repos which you have no idea what they do. So you'd want to do something like unit testing. This is taught in a lot of different CS classes. It's probably the most important thing in the testing phase, and you'd want to create unit tests to check for failures and also limit user access to system resources. You really wouldn't want a user accessing stuff that is on your own system. Is there any questions? I'm like halfway through. Okay. So number 5 on the OWASP top 10 is security misconfiguration. And this is when things aren't hardened enough or things are missing, right? So let's say that there's a bad configuration that allows for unnecessary features, like, I don't know, you don't have to sign in to change your password. That's stupid. Or change your username that way. Or you have default usernames and passwords, like I mentioned before. Or error handling that reveals traces. Those are all things that are misconfigured security risks and that you should really prevent with your code. So you'd want to implement a workflow that can be easily fixed and deployed. An example of this would be a Docker container or Docker files. These really help to figure out how to deploy something and how to easily fix something. Oh yeah, Pulblert, Molcop, yep. You'd want to lock down and remove unnecessary features from containers and softwares. If there's something not being used, shouldn't be in your code because it might break something else. And then you'd also want to deploy automated processing of configuration files. So a lot of the time is that you'd want to use, a lot of companies just have an internal way of doing this, but you'd want a way to parse through different configurations of like databases, of secrets files. What else is configured? I can't think of anything else. I'm blanking right now. But a lot of companies have a way of deploying configuration files to make sure that deployments are safe. But not every company. And there's always security risks with all of that. Obviously, vulnerable and outdated components. A big example, if anything that you have is like infamously, I don't know what it was, but there's a lot of things where developers don't want to touch code because it works fine, and why should I update this package? I actually worked in this field, so I could tell you that a lot of developers do this, and there's a lot of components that have known vulnerabilities. If you want a good example, there's a bunch of Java packages from like 2012 that have severe vulnerabilities that developers do not care to update because, as everyone knows, maintaining code sucks. Like, this is an example of when the Lazarus hackers deployed fake VMware PyP packages in VM Connect attacks. If you want to read through this, I'd really suggest doing it. It is a good example of how vulnerable and outdated components are exploited. This is also a way to say that don't download random stuff again and put it into your code or put it on a VM. Yeah, it's really interesting. It goes a bit into how it works and the malicious code itself. Also, don't run this on your machine. I think that's better said. But, oh wait, yeah.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to mention is like, even like for your operating system, like a while back, there was the Arch Linux repo that AWI, there was some malicious properties.
I think someone mentioned it, and I couldn't find, I'm pretty sure the repo's taken down.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, but I couldn't find any mention of it. I just didn't remember what to search up.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of it, but... Oh. The way you'd prevent this is remove unnecessary stuff. Again, remove stuff, check for vulnerabilities. You'd idealistically you'd want something to automatically scan code pre-production, post-production, and when it's running on the internet. There could be vulnerabilities in each stage, but some of them may be applicable and some of them may not. So that is one field in web security that a lot of people go into as well. Next up is identification and authentication failures. So this would permit automated password attacks. So if you have default passwords, weak passwords, literally anything related to a password being weak, or like knowledge-based security questions. Like if someone says, "What is your mother's maiden name?" I could just easily Google you, or if you're on Instagram, figure that out somehow. Yeah, I mean, like, some people are, yeah. Oh, maiden name. Yeah, I think it's last name before you change it. Another thing is that another way is that if you store passwords in plain text, encrypted or hashed with the weak and bad algorithm. Another reason why I guess cryptography algorithms are really important. And then also reusing the same session after repeated successful logins. Like you wouldn't, when you log out of something, you obviously have to re-log back in. And implementing that is a way to prevent identification and authentication failures. So, again, use strong passwords. Never store passwords in plain text or reversible encryption. Use hashes. SHA-256 or better. I don't know anyone that's like cracked SHA. It's a type of encryption. It's a type of hash, sorry. Yeah. We'll go more into that on next Tuesday. Also have timeouts for password fails on a website. Like, if you haven't noticed, if you type in your password, what's it called? PIN on your phone, or whatever your phone password is, wrong, like 15 times, it locked you out for an hour, or like 10 minutes. No, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, a day. It gets worse. On your phone. Don't actually do it. I don't recommend it. It kind of sucks to get through. I've accidentally done it, like, with my hand. This one I'm not going to go too into because it doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't really apply, but integrity and software failures is when code relies on unsecure services. I mean, in software and data integrity. I don't know a good example of this right now. But it's just code that relies on insecure services, untrusted resources, repos, and attackers take advantage of automatic updates, and they can upload their own updates to code without verification for that purpose. So the way that you would prevent that is to verify data hashes to make sure data hasn't been tampered with, and to vet and use trusted repos. If you haven't noticed, a lot of this is, I don't want to say don't be stupid, but it's basically don't make stupid things. Yeah. That's a good question. Honestly, you'd probably want to do research into it. In my opinion, using other people's repos is kind of, at least for like websites themselves, I can't think of like a time frame where developers had to use someone else's repo. Maybe like for front end it's been used before, but you'd want to read over the code yourself and make sure nothing else is happening rather than what they claim is happening. Also, like Rich said, do your due diligence and do research into stuff. Sorry. Next up, security logging and monitoring failures. So if you don't catch a security breach, or you have insufficient logs or unclear logs, or stuff is just not logged, this is a massive OWASP failure. Like, there's been times where companies have not logged something, and it's resulted in massive data breaches or security breaches. And that really sucks for users who actually thought that their data was being protected. This is something that a lot of regulators focus in a lot is that you're logging correctly and that you're reading the logs and detecting potential breaches or breaches that are already happening. So you'd want a good audit log of what's going on in a network. Don't store logs on a cloud because you don't know to get into that, or if the cloud goes down. Rest in peace, AWS. Use scanning tools. Can't think of a good one off the top of my head right now. A lot of them are paywalled anyways. But create alerts for possible breaches, and most importantly, use a SIEM. It's a great way to monitor logs and alerts for possible breaches. And personally, this is my favorite one. It is server-side request forgery. And it's when an application fetches a remote resource without verifying the URL provided by the user. So the resource that is being fetched thinks that the requester is the server and gives information that the user should not see. I'm trying to think of a good way that this happened. I can't think of a time this has happened, but there's definitely a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of CTFs that have done this. Server-side request forgery. I don't think we're going into that one today, but I really like this vulnerability. It is so much fun to exploit. But a way that you prevent this is that at the network level, you deny default policy on a network, and then you log all traffic if something is blocked or allowed. And then at the application level, sanitize all user input and enforce a URL schema. That was all of the OWASP stuff, but I'm going to go more into a tool that's really used in both, I don't want to say even defensive. It's mostly used in both defensive and offensive security for web security in particular. Is there any questions before I start, though? Got it. Okay. So the tool that I'm going into is Burp Suite. It's a popular tool by professionals and very much used in CTFs unless they say don't use Burp, please. And it's for web application pen testing. It acts as a proxy between a web server and a browser, and it basically allows users to view and modify traffic to exploit certain vulnerabilities. And the best part about it is that it's free. Like, I feel like paywalled stuff kind of sucks. They do have like a enterprise version, like a professional version, sorry, but really all you need is the regular version. I would recommend that you download it. I mean, you only have to enter your email to download, and that's it. But, hold on. Never mind, yeah. You can actually just download without your email. My bad. I didn't realize that. It's been like years since I downloaded this. But what we're about to go into for Burp Suite, I'll show you the tool itself before going into the practice stuff. But essentially, blink. This is Burp Suite. I'm sorry for the massive like flashbang here. But you have a dashboard here. This is just a centralized location for monitoring and controlling all automated tasks in a project. As you can see, there's a few things here. This is just because I was testing something out earlier. Don't mind that. I guess this is also something I was testing out. This is the target tab. I don't know if I can make this bigger. No, apparently that just like doesn't happen. But this is the target tab. It has all detailed information about target applications. So I was running 2 different servers here, and you could see all of the traffic that I was doing on it and what exactly I was doing, which is cool. Next up is the browser. So whenever you're using Burp Suite, you'd open the browser in this tab called Proxy. Let's see if it even opens or if my thing's gonna crash. Oh, it opened on this side. Yippee. So this is the in-house browser. It's pre-configured to work with Burp Suite. You wouldn't use your personal browser with this. But this is the proxy tab. This is where I just opened the browser. and it acts as the man in the middle. So as soon as I turn on this, which is called intercept, it tells me intercept is on, and messages between the burp browser and the target servers are held here. So let's say I want to visit.
Amazon.
Okay. It's not going to load the site just yet. Okay, yeah, whatever. It's not going to load the site. It's giving me a bunch of information about the site itself. I can't read from here because I have bad eyes. But essentially, it has information about what is being requested, and then I can just hit this forward to let the traffic go through. And my freaking Amazon gonna load? Boom! Amazon. Yay. There's a bunch of stuff on here, so I'm gonna actually clear this. Intercept off. Also, oh yeah, Burp does come preloaded on Kali. Sorry, I didn't see that. Do I want to go into Intruder? I'll just briefly cover this. We're not gonna need this, but this is the Intruder. It carries out automated customized attacks against web apps. Please do not use this in areas where you should not be using this. You'll know when you're using it. It is either if you're using it for a job or an internship or something like that, or for a CTF if they allow this. I highly doubt that. I don't usually think they do, but I could be wrong. Intruder. It's a way to make customized attacks against web apps. So you would not use this against like Google, Amazon, all of that. I'm just gonna cover this one last because everything else gets a little bit more, I don't even say complicated, but essentially this is the repeater. This manually manipulates and resends individual messages, seeing their responses, and like I said, it's a repeater. Yeah, that's pretty much all of a basic rundown on Burp Suite. I'd really suggest that you download this, especially going into our next slide, which is going over how to do web vulnerabilities. I'll start off with the very easy, and then I'm going to leave you guys to do the easy and medium, just because the very easy is quite simple. So this is just some boring HTML page, and the first thing that you do on any web page is to kind of do some reconnaissance on it, which means you'd want to find information on it. So is it running a specific version of something? Like, is there, I can't think, a MySQL server on it? Or is it using Python, I don't know what version of Python. But this one, he says that he's using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's just some boring HTML page. There's literally nothing on this page. So usually the first thing I do when looking at a web page, I like inspecting web pages. I wish there was an easier way to just drop everything down. But I can see that there's a JavaScript file being used here, even though there's quite literally no JavaScript on it. They're using Open Sans robot.txt moment. But essentially, if I drop this down, I can see a lot of different stuff about the web page, just the HTML of it. Nothing really that fun. But as you can see, they left the first part of the flag in their code, which is insecure code. Like I said, some people leave comments in their code. So that's related to the HTML. So next up, we have CSS here. And we can see from here that they're using mycss.css. So if I hit Control and I click this, I can see all of their CSS. Nothing really interesting here, unless, wow, they have the second part of a flag here. I'll get into what flags are, but also while I'm showcasing this, I would go to, I think it's picoctf.org and make an account on there so you guys could do the next two, because those links won't directly work for you. But as we can see, this is the second part. And lastly, it says that they're using JavaScript And as I said earlier, I can see that they're using a script, and it's called myjs.js. But there's not a flag here, and there's just a question that says, how can I keep Google from indexing my website? Um, if you guys know the answer, you could also raise your hand. But if you don't, I would Google it and then raise your hand once you know the answer. Also, Mel is prohibited from answering this question. There we go. Oh, a SIEM is a security information and event management. I did not see that question, sorry. So does anyone know the answer to how to keep Google from indexing a website? Yeah. Sorry?
By using no index metadata.
That is a way to do it as well, yes. But there's specifically something that people don't allow. A certain file that people don't allow, or developers don't allow, sorry. Uh, this one is, I'm just showcasing this one, but in the meantime, I'd make an account on Pico CTF. Uh, I'll show it again once I go back to the slides, but I don't think there's a way for me to do that. But in the meantime, if someone knows the answer to that question, raise your hand or just say it out loud. Yeah. Robots.txt is correct. A lot of users disallow this page in particular. This is a way for um, what's it called? I'm blinking right now. Hold on. It's a way to keep Google from indexing a website. So as you can see, it's disallowing index.html. So the site doesn't really go to Google. But the next part is that they think that it's an Apache server. So what files are common in an Apache server to get to the next flag? If you know, just shout it out as well. I'm fine with that. Huh? There is a configuration. It's another part of a file. It's a hidden file, essentially. Search up what files are, um, like, what hidden files does Apache servers usually have? Yeah.
Something called index editor.
Sorry, what was it?
Something called index editor.
Index.
Like anywhere.
It. I don't want to give the answer, but it's something related to just like hidden files in usually Apache servers.
It says right here. It says the most common example is the .h ht access file, and it
HT,
typically has like a period in front.
yeah, HT access is correct. Oh, my bad. LOL. I did not mean to do that. Um, anyways. So, .ht access. So, yep, that got us to part 4. And the last part is that they like making their websites on a Mac. And if you are a Mac user, I think that you might have seen this file before, but you can store a lot of information when making websites on a Mac. That is your last hint. It might require a little bit more research, but if you have a Mac and you've ever uploaded something like an application to, like, let's say Google Drive, you'd notice this file alongside other things. Yep.
Is it like dot back, like OX?
It's not .Mac OS. Say that.
Is it possibly called SQLite database file?
It is not. That was just something I accidentally put on the screen. That was my copy pasted SQL injection that I meant to put for my server, but I broke it.
Oh no, I searched it up. I didn't see it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give you a hint. Uh, is that it kind of sounds like something that Nintendo did make in like the 2000s. Nah, not a GameCube. Like I don't even know when it came out. I think like 2009, I'm gonna guess. I shouldn't be up to date on this lore though. hmm So, if you search, yeah,
Yes.
it's a DS, not the Wii U. I think the Wii U came out in 2011. I could be wrong, or 2012. But it is a DS. I would look up DS file on a Mac. Yeah, yeah, it's DS underscore store. Um, this is kind of where files or oh shit, did I spell it wrong? Ow. But typically, that's where. Okay, yeah, I forgot the dot. Oh, I did forget the dot. Hello? I'm crying. Oh, I put store in all caps. Yep. So DS underscore store holds a lot of information on Mac. If you've ever uploaded a application before onto a drive, I had to do this once because I had a Mac and it actually just like died. So I uploaded all of my Nintendo doesn't hear this, so I uploaded all of my fake 3DS ROMs onto Drive, and I got a ton of DS store stuff on my Drive, and I was really concerned what they were. DS was '04. Okay. Damn, I was born then. That's crazy. Um, so that was a walkthrough of just like this was all just inspect element or just knowing kind of basic things about where files are stored for specific like a Mac or an Apache server. Those are just kind of, I don't want to say basic stuff, but that just scratches the surface of web vulnerabilities. I'd recommend going on picoctf.org and trying out these two challenges. This one is a little bit easier. You'll be able to see like this one's called Intro to Burp, and this one is called Power Cookie. Surprisingly, apparently, I have not pwned this one. Although, if you need help, I'm also around to help. Also, clearly, that one's just not liked. I don't know why. That's kind of crazy. But if you need help, I'd recommend making an account, going on Pico Gym, and looking up for um, these two challenges in particular. Um, yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, you'd also need to download Burp Suite for this. I forgot to mention. For both of these, you would require Burp Suite. Um, but if you do end up needing like a little push, I'm not going to give the answer to either of these just because they're also active. But if you do need help, I can give a small push in looking the right way. But my number one thing is to always look at the network tab or just going into inspect element and seeing what's happening behind the scenes. Like I showed earlier, Amazon had all of that annoying traffic. You won't have these for these CTF challenges. And these are authorized places where you can use Burp Suite. Um, Also, while I'm here,
Yeah, that's what I said, you have to follow it.
yeah, put that right.
What's it related? Yeah.
Huh? If you go on to ecosystem.org, you want to make an account and then download Burp Suite as well to try to finish both of these challenges. And you can help. This Burp Suite.
Oh, it's just this.
Yeah, you download the community edition.
Yeah. So you're possibly. I'm gonna send it out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm actually like
You just search up where you see this.
I'd search up like the names of the challenges for these two. So this one's called Intro to Burp, and the other one, the harder one's called Power Cookie. Huh?
Oh,
Oh yeah, I just haven't watched the challenges. I'll do that. I've also never apparently gotten Intro to Burp, even though I do know the answer of how to get to it.
yeah.
Uh, I know the answer to this. I just don't think of it. Hold on. While I'm here.
Yeah. Oh,
What's that one? I forgot what this one is.
yeah, but how you do these? I think it's like for our different ways, like, wherever you find it, wait.
If you guys need help, let me know. I'll probably go over intro to burp in like 4 to 5 minutes. You should just click launch instance on inside it. Okay. That's the challenge. You don't actually have to follow the action. I wouldn't actually do it. I actually put up like actually not important, so.
Yeah, just like, think about it. It's, you go on.
Oh, this is not like actual, like you guys got it.
No, it's not actual. Um, so both of these are previous CTF challenges. So one of this was in 2024. Power Cookie was in 2022. Um, I'll go over what Pico CTF is and after this one.
Wait,
Um,
so how do you find it?
There's different answers to each.
Yeah, but like, how do we get started?
I would recommend going over the tools that I recommended during the workshop. It's kind of like a little puzzle. Yeah.
Like, push it on, right?
You'd want to use the browser. So Burpkeep's browser.
It's like got this, and got this, right? Oh, really? So how do I,
Oh.
You go to prompts.
I think I'm even like over the way. It's like each like things like.
oh.
Yeah, that's why you can slow them down and see like how much progress. Yeah. Wait. It's so weird. Okay, so it's just kind of
I understand. It is. Okay.
like you think it's this.
Yeah. You guys are open to that, you guys usually like a grocery, yeah, what is it, the website?
I think I did like um Foxy and then it said like intercept.
Yeah,
I like
I
put
do
that
that.
on.
I do that sort
And it said like open browser, right? And if you click on open browser, you can fix that website.
yeah, but the website, my website,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how you know. No, I would say.
Oh, so we got. Yeah.
So, so what do you do? I felt like, I feel like this.
Yeah, I think that might be. But you have a block there with the. I don't think it's. Oh, I think like. Oh, but that's it. It's on me. I just like finding some random stuff. But like it's instead of like
They just like push this back on.
yeah, and it's like yeah. I think you are my friend. Hold on. I think that.
Yeah, I know, but like it's not very soon.
No, because that was so definitely in part.
We were folks.
Okay, I don't know how, but
It's soon, we don't know. I just like,
that's like that. It's not.
there we go. Now we're getting some. So, we searching. Oh, I have the password.
No, that's good.
But, no way. There's, yeah, the other state.
Thanks, that's important. Yeah, I thought that was good.
Out of curiosity, has anyone gotten the flag at all? Oh. Someone said Homedale College. I we're at like almost close to 7 o'clock. I kind of want to leave both of those a mystery for now. Um, I will say, your best resource when doing any challenge in uh for web exploitation is what the hell is this website? Not that one. I guess I just didn't open it. That's cool. Um, your best resource for anything is sorry, I'm gonna like take 2 more seconds to explain this. But also, as you can see, it's not taking sanitized input because I'm able to put meow as my phone number when it should realistically be a number. Same with my password being weird. Sure, I'll save my password being meow. I'm gonna turn intercept on for this. But, um, 6-7, I guess. 6-7. Your best thing is looking in the proxy and actually looking at this request. I don't think I can make this bigger. Can I? No. I don't know what I just did. Oh, that's what I did. But looking at this request here, there's a way to put it in different forms. Definitely don't put it in hex form. It won't get you anywhere. Look at the pretty and look what's being done at the at the request itself, and then see what you can modify, and see if you can just then, after you're done modifying it, you can, where's the forward button? You can forward it after. I didn't change anything because I'm not giving the answer, unfortunately. But the last thing I just wanted to mention real quickly is that play around. That's my number one suggestion, is to just play around with intercepts you get. In cybersecurity, there's never a really straightforward answer. Sometimes you could find exploitations just by messing with random things. That's actually pretty cool. It's kind of the more niche parts of cybersecurity. But if you want to get more practice with this, definitely look at PicoCTF. It's the thing I was showcasing here with both these challenges. I'll just make one of these big. I sorted it just by web exploitation because that's specifically for this workshop. Oh, this is new. But there's a lot of different categories of if it's hard, if it's easy. I don't know if there's any extreme, but there's hard ones here. Some of it goes into JavaScript. Hate JavaScript. I actually don't, but it's fine. There's also some on cryptography, reverse engineering, forensics, just some general skills. So sometimes it'll be like SSHing into something. Don't remember what this one was. And then BinX. I know someone's favorite is BinX. But this is a really great resource. As well, there's a CTF 101 handbook on web exploitation where it tells you how you could SQL inject something or how you can command inject something as well. I'm not going to go into all of this. This will definitely probably be another workshop next semester if you're interested in that. Lastly is I want to showcase pwn.college. It's for college students. It's a really great way to start with the basics if you really don't know. Oh, what the hell did I click? I don't know. I clicked start. You'd start here, go down and like play with different programs. And then you could go into the different belts. So there's like program security, system security, and then software exploitation. And then there's just a bunch of different other things on pwn.college. I really recommend this if it's kind of your first way into cybersecurity. I even go into fuzz. Kind of wish I had more time to do that, but fuzzing is also a really powerful tool for web security. There's a lot of different fields in this. I personally am in web security, which is the reason I'm hosting the workshop. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about web exploitation. It's my favorite thing in cybersecurity ever. And yeah, all the slides will be posted on the Discord. And also, PicoCTF holds an annual competition. It's in like March, if I'm not wrong. March or April, give or take. I don't know this year. But it does a lot of cool stuff. It's beginner friendly, so if you know nothing, but now you know something. So it'll definitely help you out. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out on the Discord as well. Yeah. Thank you, guys.